Did you get laid off or quit a job recently? Two things. One, don't panic. Two, if you're posting something on LinkedIn, don't forget to add this piece. Howdy, hey folks. In today's Wednesday Word, we're going to talk about how to message the impact you made at a job as you're leaving it. If you're like me, you're probably seeing a lot of folks right now posting about losing jobs or quitting jobs, changing jobs. A lot of folks are going to post about it on LinkedIn. These posts have a structure. You've got breaking the news. You've got a piece about the wonderful experience you had at the company. A line or two about gratitude extended to the folks who brought you in the first place. Something about what's next. And then usually a specific ask for referrals, recommendations, things like that. The thing I've noticed with a lot of these posts is it's a missed opportunity to talk about the impact you made at that job. I understand it. It's hard to do, especially when you're in a really heightened emotional state. But especially for folks who do a lot of writing work and marketing and PR, it can feel a little gross talking about impact. They're worried about bragging, or they may feel the timing isn't right to share all that information. But if you're asking folks for help to find you a next opportunity, give them some information to help them make the determination. If I'm a recruiter looking for the best people to bring on, the first questions I'm going to ask are around what kind of impact you made at your previous roles. If you deliver that information up front, right when this transition happens, you're giving yourself a leg up in that opportunity to move on to something new. So either in that goodbye LinkedIn post or in a post a couple days later, add in information about the impact you made. More specifically, you want to give data, anecdotes, and key information to demonstrate and measure that impact. How do you do that? Let's get into it. First things first, we're going to compute and quantify impact. Numbers and data are going to help back up the story we're going to tell. Start by going back to your job description. Look back through any KPIs, OKRs, goals you've set as well. Look at projects and tasks you were assigned. Review your calendar from the past 6 to 12 months. See what kind of meetings you were brought into and if that reminds you of any key projects you were a part of. If you've got Google Drive, Microsoft SharePoint, dig in for documents that help highlight that impact. If you kept a log of where you spent your time and energy while you were at work, bring that in as well. If you don't track things in a log, consider starting now. It's a good mental exercise to write down what you worked on at the end of the week, Friday afternoon, Monday morning. Over time, a log will help build a better picture of what you accomplished at your job. Once you've got all this stuff together, we're gonna go mining. Things to look for, gross production numbers. So if you're a writer, the number of pieces you've written for clients. If you're an account manager, how many clients did you manage? How many pitches were part of that? Put together some gross numbers of what you did in production at the job. We're also looking for percent changes. People like to see progress over a timeline. So let's look for things that demonstrate moving the needle from point A to point B. Also look for operational saving opportunities. You're looking for time and effort saved over the course of your job. That could be something like updating an archaic process. So this will look different depending on what kind of job you have. But universal to all of this is finding data to support production and efficiency. Even the best data points in the world need to be contextualized. Now that you've chosen the data points you want to talk about, let's consider how those points show that you made a difference. So let's say you improved a process for client intake, and you ended up saving you or your team 3 to 4 hours a month. That's a good number. What else did you do with that time you saved? That offers us the first order of effects. Because you saved this many hours a month, you were able to directly do X. What secondary effects came about from this change? Did it also result in happier clients? Were they happy not to be spending so much time in intake? Numbers matter, but the story around that number is what we really want to tell. Part of this too is going to be keeping it brief, or brief-ish. As you're compiling this story, think about it like bullet points on a resume. You don't want to write paragraphs about everything you did, but you need to give just a little bit of that flavor so that folks understand why you're bringing up this data point. This is where folks sometimes get a little squeamish and feel like they're bragging on themselves. But remember that finding a new job is just like any other negotiation. You need to understand the value you're bringing to the table. And by contextualizing the data of the work that you did, you can tell that value story better. Some of y'all might be earlier in your career. Maybe you're operating at the individual contributor level. You might be saying, well, I'm not touching multi-million-dollar budgets. I'm not dealing with big clients. What kind of impact could I possibly have? Impact is all around you. To find that impact, we got to add up some of those small wins. But remember that context is what matters here. So we may call it a small win, but if we think about the larger context of where that win is applied, you can amplify the size of that impact. Early in my career, I was responsible for a campaign of letter writing. We'd mail letters to folks every 2 months. When I first arrived, I handled the entire printing process in-house, and that would take about 2 to 3 days at least every 2 months. Over time, I negotiated a printing process out of house. It sounds like a really small ad. I mean, you're printing letters, what's the big deal? But if we look at this over a year, I was doing this 6 times a year. So those 2 to 3 days of admin work I saved on one campaign became 12 to 18 over the course of a year. I could focus that time on more revenue generating activities. So yes, it was a small win, but over time that win amplified to create larger operational savings. Consider some of those places where those small wins live. Maybe you automated part of a pitching process if you're working on a client. Maybe you built better templates to write pieces faster. Maybe you negotiated some internal process to make it easier to get information. Identify those small wins and then consider how you contextualize those to tell the larger value story of what you did. It may feel a little weird doing this for the first time, but remember, you're going to be doing this anyway once you score an interview. So help recruiters bypass some of those early first steps. Plus, when you post this information on somewhere like LinkedIn, you never know who's going to see it. Codifying your impact this way could open doors you never considered before. Packaging and messaging the impact you made in your previous roles is going to help you tell a great story. And it will help unlock the next step in your career. Folks, I hope this was helpful. Let me know of any questions or ideas. I'll be back soon with the next Wednesday Word.